Yep, we're doing this. Let's finally talk about the entire first season of Velma. Please forgive me. I remember when Velma was first announced and people were generally quite excited about it, myself included. We are taking the Scooby Doo universe and applying a genuine horror twist to it, giving it a higher age rating and adding some adult themes. That actually could be really cool and fun to endure. Oh, how wrong we were. The rather uncommon choice of having episodes drop in weekly couplets was a bit of a different approach for shows like these in the modern TV climate, though within what felt like mere moments of the first and second episodes getting dropped, the internet detonated. Velma rapidly became slammed almost universally, dive-bombing directly to the bottom of the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes totem poles. There's not been a series quite like this in a good while, where it becomes a viral sensation and a meme due to how bad it is. If I gave an honest review of this thing, which I will, would I be able to extract anything good from it? Nah, probably not. But hey ho, let's give it a go anyway. There's gonna be some spoilers ahead as per all honest reviews on the channel, though I'm not gonna dig too deeply into the plot or specific moments here. I'd be writing a dissertation if that was the case. I just want to look at some of the show's general issues, which in themselves become pretty major ones. Let's get the elephant in the room out the way with. Diversity. Now, when it was announced that Velma, Daphne, and Shaggy were all going to be race swapped, naturally the internet was unforgiving. When I was a lot younger, I'd have likely had something to say about it too, but I've been a YouTube reviewer long enough and covered a lot of diverse films and programs where I'm accustomed to these kinds of decisions, and I'm welcoming to them. I think being a Doctor Who fan has helped, seeing a mostly portrayed white male character become a white woman, a black woman, and now a black man. The theatre does these kinds of changes all the time too. I've seen a stage production of Amadeus where Antonio Salieri, a white Italian composer, was played by a black man. And in recent years, Denzel Washington played Macbeth. The point of these references is this: so long as the spirit of a person or character is represented, then any kind of reimagining of them I'm cool with. That's the key ingredient though. Whatever characteristics made a certain character need to be respected and mostly adhered to, though subtle changes should always be possible with artistic license. When it comes to Velma, however, I don't think that any of the iconic Scooby Doo characters had even a single % composition of what made those characters beloved. Velma, Daphne, Fred, and Norville, this show's Shaggy, based on Shaggy's actual first name, are the blandest, most generic, cookie-cutter, annoying high school teen drama caricatures imaginable. What made Velma an iconic character? She's the smart one, the real brains of the operation, often the one to crack the case, though it was generally overlooked in favour of the more likeable members of Mystery Inc. I think that Linda Cardellini's portrayal of these traits in the Scooby Doo movie from 2002 embodied that Velma character really well, while also pushing her into an even higher level of importance and respect come the end of the film, being highlighted more as an important element to the gang. In this series, however, Velma is such an obnoxious character. She's the girl who often gets bullied by more popular girls, yet she spins that unpopularity to her advantage by being kinda attention craving. She acknowledges that she stands out from the rest, but rather than having any degree of humility around this, she's bombastically aware of how the world sees her, and intentional spotlights beam onto her. Though the original Velma wasn't strictly a humorous character, when it comes to the style of humor in this comedic retelling of Mystery Inc.'s formation, it doesn't seem like the humor would fit Velma. It's a combination of unfiltered gross-out jokes, basic surface-level gags seen 1,000 times in any Seth MacFarlane animated sitcom ever, and a pure lack of imagination despite being set in a world where imagination should run riot. It's a mystery series with a disguised killer on the loose. You could be doing some witty stuff here, yet it's dependent on pulling jokes out of well-worn hats. And speaking of the mystery element, that just gets totally lost in everything going on. The show became too focused on silly scenarios and forced comedy to a point where the most potent active ingredient in the show became distant. It was still there, but I couldn't care less about it. Velma's mother's missing, few of the bits yeah. Other than Velma occasionally writing things in a notepad and doing a few pieces of investigating, this show didn't solidly drive home for me that Velma is a dedicated, aspiring investigator. I understand this is intended to be a prequel series of how the gang got to know each other, but I'd never imagined that this Velma would ever grow up into being a form of the Velma character that even remotely resembles what it should be. And this goes for the other characters too. Daphne is on the surface a real bitch. One of the popular girls, super prissy, yet over time they begin to display and explore her insecurities. That, I will admit, was a fairly nice touch. How behind her social veil is an unconfident person who has a lot of inner conflicts. But before we get any worthwhile exploration of that concept, she's right back to being an airheaded annoyance again. When it comes to Fred, he's given a Jersey Shore pea-sized brain ultra-rich white boy persona. Original Fred is a bit of a wet flannel if you ask me, the typically dull quote-unquote leader of the gang, yet here he's a complete idiot. It's almost like adding character to a character has somehow lessened their character. I don't even understand how that can even be a thing. Then we move to Norval, who, yes, does like drugs, as is hinted at, with Shaggy being a stoner hippie stereotype. Yet here, I think this was maybe the worst reimagining in the show. Norval is just a character. He's got no relation whatsoever to Shaggy. He becomes Velma's investigative friend and they work together at times, though Norval has the hots for her, which is another thing. Everyone in this show just wants to shag each other. There's multiple attraction pairings in the group here, like Velma and Daphne having a thing, Velma being attracted to Fred, and Norval being attracted to Velma. I'm never gonna critique the differing sexualities at play here. Love who you want to love. My issue is that the dynamic of Mystery Inc. never felt to me like romantic elements were ever needed. What do those things add to those characters other than them being together? Don't get me wrong, a few of the Velma and Daphne scenes were quite nice, because it opened up Daphne's true form of herself to Velma, but then that was even quashed in my aforementioned point about Daphne slipping right back into her public image version. Speaking of image, I need to reopen the topic of diversity. I do not understand what Velma wants to be. In my head, you can either be pro-diversity, anti-diversity, or neither, just not covering any of those things. But somehow, Velma is the first thing I've ever seen that is both. It alters the races of the original versions of its characters, providing representation to those races. But then, in the show's comedy, at times it belittles and picks on those choices. The scripts contain meta-commentaries on the show's decision-making, bringing up the fact that races have been altered. It's almost like it wants to make a point. Look at us, aren't we great for representing a wider spectrum of humanity? Before unleashing gags surrounding those very decisions. And then there are a vast amount of white jokes made by characters like Velma, who was originally white. So you've taken a white character and changed them to a different race, so you can make that very same character take the piss out of the race that the original character was. I just can't fathom the thought process here. And there's even a flip side of that, where you have the white character, Fred, the only one who hasn't been racially altered, who on multiple occasions jokes about not understanding what Velma's race was supposed to be. So in this circumstance, they've taken a white character and changed them to a different race, i.e. Velma, simply so her new race can be put in the firing line of more comedic abuse. Does Velma want to support diversity or insult diversity? Whatever it wants to do, it winds up doing both, and it just made the entire experience a mess. But in general, as a show framework, it's a mess anyway. The narrative threads are tangled all over the place. None of the characters are engaging or likable. It doesn't add anything to the Scooby Doo universe. I mean, Christ, it doesn't even feel like it's in the Scooby Doo universe. The only thing that makes Velma, Daphne, Norval, and Fred feel like they're meant to be their earlier established counterparts is their clothes. Put any of those characters in different clothes and change their names. Keep everything else about the show exactly the same, and it would be its own thing. It might have even been better off as just its own thing. It still would have been terrible, but at least it wouldn't have dragged down one of the most beloved franchises of all time with its failure. Except it's not a failure. Season 2 is allegedly already in the works. People have flocked to HBO Max to check out this horrendous show from a curiosity factor, and as streams and traffic to the service are what can make shows sink or swim, that level of backlash looks like a good thing. Velma will very likely live on, no matter how much of a shower of shite it is. This could have been so much more. This could have been Scream with a Scooby Doo twist, which is what it should have been. Instead, we got date-stamped comedic references and cringe-inducing, unimaginative humour. The characterization was woeful even when you don't consider the original source material, whereby the only identifiable link was the clothes they wore, and the mystery plot was poor and swarmed by a gargantuan landslide caused by trying to be edgy, pumping every episode's script to the brim with social media buzzwords to try and garner a reaction. Yet somehow we may be seeing more of this. Some people may enjoy this show as a bit of light watching, just something to throw on at the end of a busy day and wind down to, and I think that's perhaps the best way to approach Velma. Maybe the audience it was aiming for, but to dress it up in the Velma glasses was perhaps the wrong decision here. It lured people into expecting an adult version of something they already knew and loved, but then created something where the Velma name and the other Scooby-Doo influences were unjustified. But that's just my thoughts on the show. Please do let me know in the comments below what you made of season 1 of Velma, for better or worse, and if you really did enjoy the show, I'd love to hear why. That's my own curiosity factor. I shall see you next time whenever the case is reopened. Actually, hopefully not. Cheers out.